Political ideas thrive in times of conflict and change. Think about it. Revolutions, social movements, and world wars have always inspired bold new theories. Yet, surprisingly, political theory experienced a significant decline during a critical period preceding the 20th century. Greetings everyone, this is Abhijit Suresh, and today we will be exploring the causes of this decline and the prescriptions from David Easton to revive it. For this, we will be focusing on a paper published by Easton in 1951 named The Decline of Modern Political Theory. Now, for centuries, political theory has been about answering certain cardinal critical questions. What values should guide society? How do we evaluate competing political ideologies, and so on? However, in the decades preceding the Second World War, theorists like David Easton noticed something very peculiar. While social conflict was rife everywhere, wars, revolutions, economic upheavals, there were no active deliberations over political theory's earlier mentioned cardinal critical questions. There were no groundbreaking political ideas emerging from all of this chaos. Political theory, it seemed, was stuck, recycling ideas from its glorious past. Easton traced this stagnation to what political theory had transformed itself into: historicism. Political thought, he argued, had become overly focused on history. Theorists were analyzing what had been instead of imagining what could be. To understand Easton's critique, we must first understand what a political theory is. For this, let us turn to an essay by G.H. Sabine titled What a Political Thought Is. Sabine here breaks political theory into three essential components. First, there's the descriptive part, which answers the question what is happening in society right now. Second, the predictive part, which deals with what is likely to happen in the future if current trends continue. And finally, the prescriptive part, which deals with what the future should ideally look like and what should be done to shape this better future. Easton goes on to elaborate this in a much more thorough fashion. He suggests that any prescriptive proposal will have to be built on four fundamental assumptions. First, the descriptive statements that describe the current situation as it stands. These he calls factual statements. Second, the ways in which the descriptive statements influence each other, essentially the assumptions that help us understand how one event would cause another. This he calls causal theory. Third, a web of values or preferences which political theorists select based on which they base their social policy and prescriptions. This he calls value theory. And finally, for the suggested prescriptions to yield the intended results in line with their value theory, the theorist will have to assume a model that merges the factual statements with the causal theory. This he calls applied principles. For example, Marx saying that capitalism will inevitably result in revolution, or Rawls claiming that everyone behind the veil of ignorance shall inevitably choose for a set of rules that will favor the most disadvantaged. Both these are built on factual statements of their time, assuming a certain causal relationship between the factual statements and the end results in accordance to their preferred values. With this refined understanding of what a political theory is, let us get back to understanding the aforementioned festering decay in political theory. For decades, most political research focused solely on studying political theories from the past, the historical genesis of these political theories, and understanding the institutions that were built on top of these political theories. This sole focus on the historicity of political theories came at the cost of the development of new political theories to address the issues of the emerging new social dynamic. Now, I am not saying that studying past political theories and their genesis doesn't matter. Far from it. History is vital for understanding where we've been and how we have reached here. But as Easton argued, the political theorists had stopped carrying out their primary task of developing political theories. Their affinity towards historical analysis weakened the mental rigor required to understand the contemporary direction of human civilization and course correct for a more desirable future. The historical analysis perspective held back social scientists from building systematic theories about political behavior and the operation of political institutions. Also, this wasn't a trend that was noticed among other disciplines of social sciences. While branches of knowledge like economics and sociology built theories that helped organize empirical data to better understand their fields of study, political theorists failed to do so for political theory. Easton identified that this quandary was the consequence of the decline in two of the four assumptions of political theory that we had discussed earlier, namely value theory and causal theory. We will first discuss the decline in value theory. The decline was the result of developments in two domains: practical affairs in social life and research in universities. Let's first ponder over the domain of political affairs. From ancient Greece to the mid 19th century, for centuries, the primary objective of political theory was to figure out what criteria one must use to analyze different programs offered by different competing groups for political power. However, towards the end of the 19th century, the interest in the reformulation of values and conceptions of a good political order declined. What led to this? The perception that all ideas were subjective and hence were equal permeated into mainstream thought. Let me try to break it down. Until people thought that it was possible to create a standard set of values based on which a future political order could be conceived, they creatively analyzed past political ideas. But once they gave in to the perception that all ideas were merely preferences of individuals or groups, which are based on their lived experiences, the motivation to judge political values declined. Because if all ideas were equal, then there was no point in trying to identify an ideal set of values. Also, the political situation between 1848 to 1980 was unlike what followed it. While the First World War was followed by an emergence of ideas like fascism and totalitarianism that needed to be opposed tooth and nail, the time period preceding the war did not see any major fault lines among moral values. Most political thinkers did not find it too difficult to reach at a consensus given the underlying similarity between most of their fundamental beliefs. This changed post the First World War. The emergence of ideologies like fascism and totalitarianism pointed to the possibility of an inherent divergence between ideas, that all ideas may not be equal after all. This change, Easton argues, should force people to reconsider moral relativism and the assumption that all moral values were equitable. There are certainly major fault lines in values different people or groups hold that cannot find any common ground with other values. In this new emerging world with such divergence in value patterns, blindly following traditional values will no longer work. It is imperative to further the work on identifying values that best suit the modern times. Next, let's pick up the issues in the research in universities, figure out what went wrong there. Under the influence of those who believed in moral relativism, political theorists focused on pure empirical analysis diverged from any values. This was seen to be virtuous, to create an entirely value-ridden framework. However, the works of the likes of Karl Mannheimer show us that no such framework can ever truly be isolated from values. People's personal values and preferences will inevitably muddle with their research. This can happen in multiple ways. For example, the kind of research questions one chooses is often value-laden. So are the interpretation of the results. In the absence of a value framework, either the purely empirical research serves no purpose at all, or it would end up endorsing the values aligned to the person's personal bias. Let us now move on to analyzing The second assumption of political theory that was in decline, causal theory. The decline in causal theory was a function of plain indifference to the field of study. The hyper-focus of political theorists on historicism of ideas lent to this indifference to a large degree. The heightened focus on understanding the historical context of political ideas and institutions rather than building systematic theories to explain and predict political behavior led to the decline in political theory. In addition to this hyper focus on historicism was also the intellectual inertia to move away from familiar approaches. While economics, for example, was building robust quantitative methods to solve their problems, political theorists were stuck in their rut of familiarity. This created a further lag in understanding political behavior better, which contributed to a sense that political theory was too vast and complicated to be analyzed quantitatively and empirically. This lack of development of a robust causal theory in political science has ruptured the relationship between political theory and research into political behavior. Any advice on achieving political goals that is not drawn from a general theory of political behavior is nothing but common sense. David Easton, explaining the causes of the decline in political theory, also prescribes solutions for reviving the discipline. And this directly deals with the decline in the two assumptions of political theory he had pointed out. According to Easton, the political spectrum is made of three entities: the citizens, the politicians, and the political theorists. In the absence of political theorists doing their job of developing new political theories for the emerging world, the politicians and citizens are forced to pick up the mantle and take the work forward. He argues, however, that the social scientists who have been studying past value systems are the most strategically placed to reformulate contemporary theories. The idea is that everyone tries to define the situation, both citizens and politicians. And since the influence of personal values on this definition is inevitable, the best suited to define it are those who are studying the values. He prescribes the following to be followed to improve political theory from both the value theory end and its causal theory end. For the value theory end, he suggests the adoption of a threefold approach. 1. The social scientist must analyze their own values and hold it to inspection. If the values are not consciously chosen, then their work will reflect values that they might have accidentally acquired. This can lead to the creation of advocates of values who might not have understood the values that well themselves. Second, political theory should act as a bridge between the needs of the society of that age and the knowledge of the social sciences. This will better utilize contemporary resources as well as improve relevance of other social science while also pushing political theory back to center stage. Third, it should help citizens and politicians define their situation better, because this is at the end of the day the primary objective of political theory. For the causal theory end, he suggests a renewed focus on the same by building narrow gauge and broad gauge theories. These are types of generalizations that can help move the discipline beyond a collection of individual empirical observations. Narrow gauge theories are a set of interrelated propositions that are designed to synthesize the data concerned in an unorganized body of singular generalizations. For example, empirical observations from different political parties can be analyzed to conclude that most political parties are eventually controlled by a select elite. Broad gauge theories are more general in nature, which try to capture the essence of the entire political system. For example, examining how changes in the nature of leadership in political parties can influence overall system legitimacy. Easton hence identifies the reasons for the decline of political theory and sheds light on the need for political theory to evolve beyond passive observations of history or catalogues of empirical data. He urges political theorists to engage critically with their own values, bridge the gap between societal needs and social sciences, and develop robust, systematic theories that can address the complexities of modern political systems. Only by doing so can political theory remain relevant, equipping citizens and politicians with the means to better define and navigate the political circumstances of our time. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this video insightful, please like, comment, and share it with others. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more in depth discussions on policy, political theories, and economics.